And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Sometimes the title of a game is just plain out silly. And that would be the case of the game Killer Bunnies. Now, with Killer Bunnies, you might go to your local store and look at and just see a shelf of Killer Bunnies. But there's actually multiple Killer Bunny games. We have the Killer Bunnies and the Quest or the Conquest for the Magic Carrot. And that has like, what, 6 or 7 different expansions. But now there's a new game out called Killer Bunnies and the Ultimate Odyssey. Now here's the yellow box and the purple box and the blue box and the red box and the orange box and the green box. Now in this, what this is basically, it's an LCG. Or not LCG. I don't know. It's a collectible game, but it's not one where you go and buy random packs. It's where they're already put together. Does it actually say on here what it is? It's a constructible card game. That's what it is. A constructible card game, because you can buy this blue deck and someone else can buy the purple deck and you can play against each other. Or you can buy the blue-purple deck, mix cards, and have a blue-purple deck, and play someone else who has a yellow-red deck. Or someone else who has a yellow-red-green-orange deck. And so it has a very meaningful flavor, kind of like Magic. But this is one that's definitely for kids. So we're going to break this review into 2 parts. This is part 1. In this one, we're going to talk about the game, how it plays, and what we think about it. In part 2, we'll talk about each of the different factions and our thoughts on whether blue is better than red. Hint, it's not. The game comes with a sheet of paper that first talks about different colors, and you can see how yellow and blue and purple, you know, the opposites, etc. But on the other side here, you use it. Now you don't have to use this. You could use it. You know, you can play the game without this. You know, if you know where all the things go. I'm just leaving it out here. I actually don't like playing on sheets of paper that are folded up like this because it's a pain in the neck to fold them and unfold them. But we have a city circle. So you have all these cities that are next to each other here. Then you have a creature circle, or the bunny circle here. And then you have a place for top run card, bottom run card, draw pile, discard pile, save special, and resource cards. I'm going to be using the purple deck here to show how this game works. On your turn, you are going to be placing a card. At the beginning of the game, you place a card in the top run card and the bottom run card. And the game's very simple. When it's your turn, you will turn over the top run card and accomplish it. So let's say, for example, I have this card here and this card here. I would turn over this card and play it. Then I'd move this card up here. I draw a card, choose a new card to place in the bottom run card. So you're basically playing a card a turn before you're going to actually use it. And so you have to keep this is a mechanic that was actually in the original Killer Bunnies game. And so they're using it here again. And so you're going to be using these cards to get points. Now, the game comes with this. It comes with a deck of cards. And it also comes with these things. It comes with 3 dice, a 12-sided, 6-sided, and a 20-sided, and a bunch of tokens that are negative on one side and positive on the other side. The 20-sided die, which starts at 10, is simply placed on the board to keep track of how many points you have. And you're trying to get 60. You say, wait a minute, sir, but how can you get that with a 20-sided die? Well, once you get 20, you put this underneath the die and continue on, and then you can flip it to add 40. And so when it's 40 and it reaches 20, you've then won the game. The other 2 dice are used in the game. 12-sided die is used to attack the other player, and a 6-sided die is used for a variety of effects from the cards. Now, each of the decks has a resource, okay? These are resource cards. When you get a resource card and you play them, you'll put them over here to the side. Now, resource cards are important because every card in the game requires resource cards. Well, except for resource cards themselves. If you see up here in the top corner of this run card, it requires 4 cards. There's 4 hexagons there. It requires 4 cards to be played. 2 of them can be any color. That's what the white means. The other 2 must be purple. So I could use 4 purple resources to, if I have 4 purple resources out in front of me, I can use them to put this card out. Or if I have 2 purples and 2 yellows, I can also place the card out. Now that happens when the card comes up and turns over, so if I can't do it, then I simply have to throw the card over my discard pile. So resources are a big chunk of your deck. There's a lot of resources in your deck. In fact, if you don't get any resources when you start the game, you're allowed to mulligan and draw more cards. But you want to get points in the game, and there's two ways to get points. One of those ways is to get bunnies on the board. Each deck comes with a variety of bunnies. There's 3 triple bunnies in everyone's deck, and there's bunnies that have different symbols: the Spiral City Bunny, the Cross City Bunny, the Ellipse Symbol Bunny, the stars, you know. And then there's a special bunny for each deck, the reroll bonus bunny. And these bunnies, when you get them, they cost a certain amount of resources. You see each of these bunnies. Some cost 1, some cost 3, some cost 2. When you put a bunny out on the board, they're usually worth a certain amount of points. For example, this triple bunny here is worth 3 points. And then you need to add that to your die to show how many points you've gotten. Some bunnies are worth different points if they're in a different city, or so on and so forth. And you say, wait a minute, what are you talking about cities? Well, that's another thing that you can play on your turn. Cities, as you can see here, are very expensive. Look how many resources it takes to put out Essen. Although some cities are even much, much more than that. Look here at Mumbai, and you can see it takes 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 resources to get out on the board, but that city is worth 11 points. You can't put a city out on the board, though, unless you have a bunny that you can immediately place into that city. So bunnies and cities are your main way of getting points. Now, you're trying to get rid of your opponent's bunny, so you often will play weapons. Here's where the game can get silly, where you play a weapon. This is a weapon level 11. You play it, and then your opponent has to roll higher than the level of the weapon. And there's cards that they can use against weapons, but the weapons can be something like this: a Springer Moment, Javelin Rain. Some of my favorite weapons are just, silliness, like here, a bunch of Rolling Stones, or Ice Baby, attacking. And the humor that's been found in all the Killer Bunny games is here. You can also play a card that says, feed the bunny, and your opponent has to have a certain amount of food to feed their bunny, or their bunny will die. There's also cards that players can play, like, for example, here's Natural Gas. You can add this to a city, and when that happens, you roll a 6-sided die, and you will place points on that city using these tokens to show that that city has extra points, again, which are added to the dice. You can attack cities with weapons, and when you attack a city or a bunny and they're not killed instantly, they'll take negative points. Once the points are less than the amount of points that the bunny or city is worth, then they are killed. And so there's a lot of attacking going back and forth, and then each player has other special run cards, and then they got special cards. Now, special cards are interesting because a special card can be played right from your hand. You don't have to put it here, but you can. You can also save specials and play them later. For example, this gold mine here lets you double all your resources for 1 round. This one here lets you counteract a weapon. These cabbage and waters are very important because you need these, and when you put these out, you'll put out a certain number of food and cabbage on them, and you will be using them in case someone plays a feed the bunny on you. Now, you can play this multiple players, and that's why there's a circle, because sometimes things will affect a bunny and the adjacent bunny. So I might attack this bunny, and the bunny sitting next to me in the circle will also be affected. And you keep going until one player has reached 60 points, at which point that player is the person who's won the game. Now, the game comes with instructions that are written here, and so you can read those. It talks about the card types and how to play the game. And then you can read the bunny bits, which tells you about each specific card involved in the game, and even gives you some information about some of the specific bunnies and how they work, and some of the special cards for the different characters. And so, in a word, that's how to play the game. There's 6 different decks. Each deck has differences. You can put different cards in your decks depending on the different symbols on the cards. Some cards can have more of them in a deck or not. It depends on the color up here to how many you can put in your deck. You can have as many resources as you want in a deck, but other cards you may have a limit to how many you can put in. Alright, so there you go. That's how you play the game. It's a very simple game. I'm going to let Melody go first on her opinions, and then I'll tell you what I think. What do you think of the game?
I really like the game of how you try to put the same shape bunny into the same shape city, and it's fun trying to beat my dad, because I beat him in every game I play with him. Okay,
let's not, no, we're not going to go into that, but listen. Here's some things. I'm not real keen on the constructing deck part of this game. I mean, you can do it, and you mix them together, but it can be difficult. To me, if I constructed a deck with this, which I'm not opposed to doing, I'll take 2 colors and put them together, and that's it. And I do like that aspect of it. That's neat. And I think the artwork is really cool, and it's fun. And the weapons are fun to shoot at the opponent's bunnies. The negative thing that I will say about it is that if you don't get a lot of lands in the beginning of the game, you can have a pretty slow game for a while. Or if you draw a lot of lands and then don't draw many cities for the longest time, yeah, so you can have games where you just don't get what you need for a long time, and that can be unfun. Also, if your stuff gets destroyed, you finally do get some lands and bunnies out there, and your opponent just gets lucky and takes them out, it would be difficult to rebuild from that. That being said, I think this is an excellent intro to the deck building genre. It reminds me a bit of Magic. It reminds me a bit of Versus. I think it's good for kids to get into that.
Another down thing about mixing decks, because I think if you mix a lot of decks together, it's going to be harder to put out cards because you want.
Well, right, but I think that's deliberate, okay? I don't think you should ever go beyond 3 different colors. It's very similar to Magic, and in fact, the cost of the cards is very similar to Magic. But so overall, I like it. I don't know that I would ever play it outside of playing it with Melody or with kids her age, but with those, it was fun.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.